probably the number one question that everyone interested in entrepreneurship has explored at least once in their life is how to navigate employment, so having a job, versus entrepreneurship, launching and running your own venture. And that's a question I had to explore several times in my career. That's a question also that I had a chance to explore again today with a coaching client of mine. If I think about it, it's a question that many people in my network, even in my immediate family, had to explore and answer throughout their lives. So let me share some stories with you, and maybe this helps you navigate your own question about this balance between being an employee and being an entrepreneur. For me, the first time I remember exploring this question is when I launched my career. Although I come from a family of entrepreneurs, besides my mom, who's a teacher and had a stable job through the government teaching, for me it was a no-brainer that I should pick a job at a consulting firm because I wanted to learn from experienced consultants. I was also very attracted by the pedigree of large consulting firms, and so the first skill set that I learned was job hunting. Identifying job opportunities, putting a resume together, getting ready for interviews, that sort of skills. Sounding good, looking good, trying to be a good fit for the job opportunities that I was interested in. Very quickly, I realized that I was probably not a good fit for employment. Quickly, after the first year or two, because I was not responding well to the gap between those organizational promises that I was, attracted to, organizational employer branding, all the promises of great culture and all that, and what I was experiencing. So I thought that I was very loyal to organizations who were not delivering on those promises. And, the feeling of disappointment started, and I thought, I should better be my own boss. That way I won't be disappointed. I will be disappointed just at myself if I need to. And that way, it will be just much easier for me. So I veered to entrepreneurship pretty radically, excluding any sort of employment, any sort of job situation, typical employment situation. And I did this very radically, and it was not easy at first. I thought it would be easier, but other problems came. Not having a stable paycheck, working long hours. I felt like I was taking risks that were still worth the reward because I had a lot of freedom. It was a really fascinating intellectual challenge. Emotionally, I was very fulfilled and meeting a lot of interesting people. But when it came to bringing more stability to my life, because then I got married and got a family, that became a little bit more of a conundrum here. So here is what I learned through, long story short, here's what I learned. I think it's a bit counterintuitive, but entrepreneurship is probably less risky if you look at it as the possibility to grow a portfolio of revenue sources. Instead of one paycheck as an employee, you depend on one source of income, one paycheck. You diversify the sources of income, and so if you lose a client, you can probably replace it. And so as you learn entrepreneurship, you learn how to build a business that is more predictable, and you get better at the skill set of creating a client versus getting a job, right? You're now creating a client. So I think there is a lot of value there. But I wouldn't be so black and white here, so definitive about that risk, because sometimes that risk decrease, because sometimes you can find also in employment something very interesting, which is if you have a stable paycheck coming your way, is if your job is easy and you're working with an organization with which you're happy and and it doesn't look like it's going to change, well, then you have more peace of mind to be creative, right? I remember a conversation, a podcast I listened recently between Austin Kleon and Dave Gray. Austin Kleon is the author of the book Still Like an Artist, and he has a blog, and he explores creatives, artists. And I remember him saying, in the beginning of my career, all I wanted to do is, or my job was working at a library, or I wanted to work at a library. Don't quote me exactly on that, but he was talking about a job at a library, which he found great because he didn't have to worry too much, and that peace of mind opened the door to a lot of creative experimentation for him. And then he launched his own career as an author, and now he has his own business. So that stable job created a launch pad. So I think that that's another thing to keep in mind as you're navigating and exploring that question. Another facet I want to share with you is the principle of doing what's right. That principle I experienced firsthand when I immigrated, to this country, to the United States, in July of 2008. I had no idea that it was going to be the beginning of a major financial crisis, and I moved here because my wife is from the state of Washington here. And I didn't know anyone. My English was kind of so-so. And my plan was to still work with my business partners in France part-time, but not as a key player in the leadership team, and then find a job here and maybe become an entrepreneur as well. And then quickly, the economy crashed, and I had to do what's right, which is I had to find as quickly as possible, because nobody wanted to hire a music consultant. Quickly, I had to find any sort of job to provide for my family, pay the bills, and got really grounded and realistic there. So it was still kind of maybe my entrepreneurial spirit, my problem-solving mindset that helped me get a job and get some money and some cash flow. So sometimes you have to do what's right, and if you're running your own business and your business has cash flow issues, maybe getting a job is something you considered. I think it's okay to not feel ashamed by this, but rather to look at it as a way to continue your entrepreneurial path, your entrepreneurial goals, and seeing this just maybe a temporary loop in the journey, a temporary curve, or maybe a tangent, while you continue to work on the side on your own business, look for clients, and then in the end be successful. I wouldn't be so hard on myself as I felt I was when I had to take a job again after years of entrepreneurship. I felt really, really ashamed. It was a big hit on my ego. But now looking at it, and if it happened to me again next time, I would look at it very, very differently. I would look at it as an opportunity to provide temporary stability, recognition, safety, while I continue to grow some ideas and think about the business that I want to operate in. So if I think about also my family, I remember my aunt and uncle used to own a pastry shop and small chocolate factory in the northern part of the Paris suburbs, and after 20 or 25, maybe 30 years of their career, their shop burned. There was a fire. Fortunately, it happened in the middle of the night. Nobody was in the shop, and they were safe at home. But they got a call that all of their business, their venture, everything was gone. The whole building was burned down. They had to do what was right, and I remember my aunt, very courageous person, decided to job hunt. And go work in Paris for another large pastry chain and chocolate factory where her skills were put to good use. I remember her, taking the train. I remember her, commuting all of a sudden and really being in this position of serving an organization, having a boss telling her what to do, and so on. So there was a complete change in her life, completely getting rid of freedom, no initiative, just following processes and working in a chocolate and pastry assembly line because it was a much bigger shop, more industrialized. But she had to do what's right to provide for her family. And they rebuilt their shop. Her and my uncle rebuilt their shop and they got back on track. So that's another story that I hopefully, I hope inspires you to look at this question as something that is not necessarily black and white. Either you're an employee or an entrepreneur, but maybe think about it in terms of phases. I even get sometimes some of my clients, some people in my network request to come and work as an employee within their organizations, and I'm always happy to have the conversation because I never know what tomorrow is going to look like. So I add a lot of and instead of or in those conversations. That's another tip I'm happy to share with you, is to look at things more in terms of balance and not just teeter-totter, just one or the other. Then it also depends where you are in your journey. Maybe you have a thriving business and employment is not even a question. You will never be wondering about this question ever again. Or maybe you are this radical entrepreneur who would rather go through moments of hardships no matter what and never get into a job, never have a boss again. This makes me think that ups and downs are real in entrepreneurship. It's not if they're going to happen, but when they're going to happen. Countless times in my entrepreneurship experiences, I looked at my bank account and I saw very small numbers, sometimes as low as 50 cents left, and I was wondering, how am I going to pull this off? How is this going to work? And I learned not to worry too much, because worrying doesn't bring anything to solving these kind of problem. And I learned to trust that in the end things would work out, things would just land where they are. Another thing that I learned is to ask for help in those moments, and just trust that if I was more open, if I was more transparent with my needs, with my network, need for money, need for advice, need for clients, and ask for help, this would also help me navigate the question of employment versus entrepreneurship. So there you go. I hope this question is something that gets easier for you to explore as you continue to, if you're thinking about launching a business, if you're already operating a business, if you're fine with it, whatever the case might be. I hope this question is of interest. But in any case, I invite you to bring in a mindset of possibilities, of optionality, of flexibility. None of these two facets, none of these two models, are better than the other. I think they complement each other. I think that if you see the connection between both, if you see the maybe a way to build a hybrid model for yourself. Maybe your hybrid model looks like a job that you take, maybe full-time or part-time, and maybe having some clients on the side. I think that's a model that has a lot of legs, a lot of a big future, in fact, as we see our economy relying more and more on, we call it the gig economy, so relying more and more on people who are available part-time, whether you're a fractional CMO, C something O, whether you operate through networks like Upwork or other platforms that provide temporary smaller chunks of work. I think this is a model that is really, really worth exploring, that could probably be a stable model, in fact. I look at offering your skills, sharing your passion, and developing a job that you're really passionate about, while also making money, as building that portfolio of opportunities and not necessarily putting all your eggs in the same basket. That's really, I think, something worth considering, and that's how you get smart. That's how you remain true to yourself, authentic to yourself. That's how you honor, how you work at your best also all the time, how you connect to your best energy, best creativity flow. In fact, this leads me to another tip about how to navigate, this question of employment versus entrepreneurship, which is to consider what brings you joy. What brings you, what makes you, what turns your light bulbs on, what makes you energized. I was talking to another aspiring entrepreneur a bit earlier today, and we had this conversation about, all right, he wants to launch a business, but what should be the business about? So, we talked about opportunities to serve clients, but we also considered the tasks, the jobs, the type of projects that bring him, the most energy, the most joy, on a regular basis. So all of these considerations hopefully help you create your own set of criteria to make better decisions, whether you should take a job or be an entrepreneur. Good luck. As always, I welcome your comments and questions, and I look forward to hearing from your entrepreneurial journey. Thank you.